Welcome to OzLoL Podcast, episode 119. My name is Carrot Colossus. I am host of the show. This week are going to be talking about OPL Week 6. We've had some interesting games, some upsets, sort of, maybe. I don't know. We had some interesting performances. And we have a bunch of cool guys to talk about that with us. A bunch of Kiwis, yet again. So we've got Pixie.
Right. So last week, I forgot something very important, and I need to make an apology. I forgot that some of our listeners are not also viewers. So last week, instead of introducing myself, I just made a silly face at the camera and waved my fingers a lot. And it wasn't until I listened to the SoundCloud podcast of it that I realized they just introduced me and I sat there like a fuckwit.
Yes, that's why we said you need to say something. We've also got joining us is Billy. No. But we do have joining us for the very first time in the visual flesh, sort of. The
visual
online
flesh.
Yeah,
the visual flesh.
Yeah, the visuals. We have Smite. Finally with
Hello everyone, and look, I can move. I'm not just dressed up as Vegeta. Well, no, it's Mario on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not just Mario anymore. I actually have a face. I've got a really bright wall, but this is my setup, and welcome to myself to the show.
Smite actually lives inside like a photo booth. He's just got like the big like parasail, like umbrella
that's kind of
lights.
what it looks like.
He just
I live in heaven.
You live in an extra of like Days of Our Lives or something. You just on the set. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. So let's talk about. Well, firstly, mention Pixie's already said it. If you want to check us out, we are on SoundCloud. We don't have every episode on SoundCloud. Usually only the most recent one. So anyway, SoundCloud. We're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We're on YouTube. And that's it. Unless you want something else, in which case you can ask us and we'll put it on the servers of your choice. So make sure you can check us out on all of those formats. And of course, we are part of the Trinity Force Network. So check out trinityforcenetwork.com. That's our new website. And that has all of our shows. And yeah, there we go. Okay, let's talk about some happenings in the OS. First off, let's talk about, they've kind of actually finally getting around to revealing some of the lore for Runeterra. So this week we've seen the Mount Targon kind of description, I guess it is. Did you guys check that out?
Yeah, so it's kind of...
What were your thoughts?
Does anyone else feel like Malphite is just going to be the mountain? I don't actually think it'll actually happen, but I was kind of wondering while I was reading that, aside from that, yeah, cool, and 2 blank spaces where champions will go. One of them is almost certainly going to be Tarek. So the other one...
Yep.
Dragon, new champion, comes from a big mountain. I reckon it's going to be that.
I think it's going to be Ionia.
Well, I mean,
I thought it was Ionia.
What, Targon? The dragon.
The dragon guy.
No, well,
I think
the reason it could be Mount Targon is the name is literally Aurelion Sol. Sol means sun, and Aurelian is I'm not an etymologist, so sorry if I just fucked this up really badly, but it's really similar to like I think it's the Latin term for gold. It might be Greek, which in itself I think comes from one of their words for the sun or sunshine.
Yeah.
So basically, Aurelion Sol is a dragon champion called Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Mount Targon. Ooh.
Well, you've got Leona and Diana up there with the whole sun moon thing going on anyway.
They were celestial deities. It would make sense for a sun-related champion to come from there.
Maybe to balance it out, they're making Tarek like a moon gem knight. Ooh.
What?
I'm sorry, just... All I'm imagining now is just Tarek gets re-released, only he's now wearing assless chaps and it's called Full Moon Tarek.
Oh no. Oh no.
That is the best. That is so good. Somebody needs to go and actually do a picture up of that, because sometimes they do people do splash arts for like like ideas for skins and full moon characters now.
We've got to be careful though, guys, because Victor gets really mad at us if we talk about Tarek
We can't do yeah,
and don't do it properly. So
also when we talk about
none of that,
chaps,
Pixie.
So yeah, we can't talk about
Here's my
arseless
finger.
chaps when Victor's not here.
Still getting used to the camera.
Oh,
Oh look,
And it's just him without a shirt.
I've started this topic before, and there's literally no reason for people to assume that Ezreal is a homosexual.
Yeah,
but we're not continuing this discussion.
Did we cover that?
Yeah.
Was it on the podcast or?
I think
we did.
It went off topic, I think.
Just a
And
little.
we did talk about it. Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
I feel like the moment we're talking about which champions are gay, we've gone off topic.
Well, no,
Yeah, a
because
little bit.
it's an important part of the Tarek rework. Like, because. Well, no, because
Okay.
it's undeniably in his character that, that.
Yes, he
Not,
likes.
not, not that he is literally gay, but that he's, fabulous and
He likes all
Yeah.
things
such.
beautiful.
And part of the discussion on the rework is whether he's actually whether they're going to keep that joke style going.
Whether they can
But
make
that's a
it
discussion for
Anyway,
another topic.
That's the discussion we've already had.
I can just hear Lee struggling, like, "Come on, guys, come on, let's stop
No,
pissing
it's fine.
people off."
I'm still laughing at the full moon Tarek thing, so it's all good.
Hey.
Yeah. Anything of particularly of note about the Targon thing? I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, it's interesting, but it's nothing. I mean, I guess by this point, I'm starting to think, like we really need to sort of see more or something like that. Like it's almost like, to really get an appreciation of where they want to take this. Like we actually need to see like pictures rather than just lines of text. I mean, I guess the ultimate would be like an actual RPG set in Runeterra, which they may eventually do anyway.
League of Legends 2.
It's a really hard thing to expand the lore into the game itself because, I mean, most of the reason is that no one plays anything but Summoner's Rift. So unless they rotate a different theme Summoner's Rift, which is just ridiculous, then it's not really going to happen.
I'm totally cool with the notion that the fluff is completely separate from the game, in a sense, like to a certain degree, that they don't really mix. I mean, I guess maybe the fluff sort of pops up in some of the skins they choose or something like that, but it's more just like they've kind of created a world that actually does have some things about it that's kind of different from sort of other sort of fantasy settings, and it'd just be cool to see what they do with that. And I mean, it's like essentially League of Legends is a character-driven game. You've got all these characters and archetypes, and having them going off into the world and doing interesting things, like that's cool in and of itself. Like that doesn't have to be drawn from the game.
Yeah.
Why not go full separate lore spotlight? Like, you don't even have to clog up the playstyle spotlight, which, people who are just into the playstyle, even if it is only 30 seconds, they don't want to waste the time on that. They can just, you can have both videos. In fact, that's kind of what Heroes of the Storm does, is they've got like a kind of a lore trailer, which, I mean, they're already established characters, but for example, if it's Arthas, he'll run around smashing a bunch of people, like probably killing, not Kerrigan, Sylvanas, things like that to do with their lore, and then they'll have a separate video which is, hey guys, I'm the Freak, I'm the Heroes of the Storm version of Freak, and here's how to play this champion, and so I really like it like that. So there's no reason why they couldn't do that. And the lore trailers in Heroes are quite short anyway; they're like a minute or two long.
I mean, they've kind of been doing it though. I mean, like, particularly with the teasers that they've done, they've kind of given you kind of maybe not lore per se of this is where they're from, but they release kind of relatively simple animations. I mean, to sort of give you a sense of what this character's about. So I mean, they did that with Jin. I mean, Bard's a really good example. They actually had a couple of videos where they kind of show you the mountain and sort of have played the music and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, they kind of already do it. I mean, it's just kind of getting to the point where, like, it's just putting out a bunch of, I mean, when they first pulled all the lore down and they said they're working on it, like, okay, sure. Like, having more text is good, but it's getting to the point where, like, if they really want to do this properly, they need to actually start showing us, imagery, anything that's more than just, a few paragraphs. A few good paragraphs, great, but I mean, it's not really.
I don't know.
Sorry, I just kind of want to pipe in there because there's two key things I kind of want to touch on. The first one kind of relates to what you were saying, Carrot. I actually quite like the way Riot's been handling things, like in terms of how they present character, because they have this thing that they've kind of hit upon. I can't really say recently because they have been doing it for a little while now, but it's become more and more obvious where they try and get down to the core of a character, I guess, and they try and make it so that a character's playstyle also reflects who the character is. And you're dead right about Jin, and Bard, all the teasers for that. They sort of gave you who the character was at their core, what they're kind of like.
I don't know. The Bard,
and just
to jump in.
Just hear me out. Just hear me out.
Go.
I got
just
another one.
Say how you're wrong.
Sit tight. And then they do actually give you the written backstory and all that, but at that point it is lore. They're not telling you the character through the story. They're telling you a story of the character you already know, which I kind of prefer. That's one of the. It's funny that you use the word fluff because that suddenly pulled my mind right into 40K, right? Because you buy the miniature, and especially when you buy a special character, they're really well designed, they're really intricate, they got all these things, and they'll have an entry in the codex that has a little bit of their story as well. And you can get some deeper parts of that story. It doesn't necessarily have much to do with how they play on the board, but you get the essence of the character in the miniature, and then you get the rules that are associated with that, and then you can also hear a story about them. And that's actually a really cool way of immersing you in the world, because you can still just play the game, and you can totally get the same experience of character as everyone who reads all the lore, but then the people who also read all the lore enjoy the story. Back to Mount Targon specifically, though, and this does kind of tie in. One of the things I really liked about the Diana release, and I'm probably a bit biased because I started playing around this time, but the way they set up the rivalry between Diana and Leona was just really nice. And, all the way through, their vocal lines, you pick Leona, she says, the sun always rises. You pick Diana, she says, the moon also rises. And the whole thing of her, being scorned, being an outcast, it's sort of being a rebellious faith. It's a very compelling story, and it just oozes through her character. Her blade is mean.
It's a moon.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's mean and it's wicked, but it's also very beautiful. And you can understand why a people would be at odds with someone like this, no matter how reasonable she might be. And you can see where her good intentions have gone awry, and it was very, very well done. Probably one of the better champion releases they've done in terms of tying into lore. Pre some of the most recent stuff. I would fucking hate it if we lost that, because the thing they've got now of these two champions basically being avatars of gods, the sun and then the moon, and then Pantheon, I think, is more meant to be like a avatar of a god of war. It's cool in one regard. It's fucking shit in terms of that same story. Like, even if they just say, oh yeah, by the way, the sun and the moon have a rivalry, it's not going to feel half as rich as what they previously had. So I'm crossing my fingers for the next few paragraphs, because this is something I think they really can't stand to lose. It would really suck. It would be a step backwards for them.
Matt, do you want to... Smart?
Sure. Well, I guess when I was going to jump in, it was just to correct you on something, which was like you were saying, the previews that they do show like the characters, even what they are in game, like with their kit and stuff. The Bard thing wasn't so much. I mean, it showed him rushing up a mountain and killing everyone along the way, or like knocking them about.
To my room. I'll be right back.
And the reason he's wrong is because Bard just is a support that sort of wanders around and doesn't kill everyone like that. Although some people can do it as Bard. Yeah, and we'll get to that when we talk about the Trident vs. Direwolf series.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no.
Go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to make the point. I mean, well, Pixie, I was going to sort of reply to what Pixie said, but now he's run off somewhere. I don't know where. I think... So I don't disagree that the character, that they've done a good job of establishing characters. I mean, that they absolutely 150% have. Even on this, like in every release, they are really giving you a good sense of pretty much every character, even if like some characters are sort of promoted more than others. I mean, I guess the best example is Jinx. They released a music video to go with her. Like that's probably, in my view, the best release they've done in terms of promotion. But every champion is getting something.
My mic while I deal with this.
Yeah, good idea. But yeah, no, I agree. Jinx
but sorry, good.
Oh, I was just gonna say Jinx was kick-ass.
Yeah,
one of my favorite releases. But I love it when they do things like that. I think the point you were getting at before was though, is that so much of their lore. Oh my god, Pixie! So much of their lore is just here's basically a short book. Go and
Yeah,
read
that's
it.
it.
And no, I get that.
That's a problem.
And I mean, I love reading, so you know I get really into it, and I still need to get into the Mount Targon thing, which I'll read tonight. But not everyone loves reading, and that's totally fine. And while
and text is not evocative. I mean, that's
yeah,
like he brought up 40K, and yes, you've got all these miniatures that really show you, give you a sense of the character, but you also have in these codexes, which with all these rules, they have double page draw, pictures. They've got lots of imagery and lots of imagery of these miniatures, or of the characters that are depicting, these miniatures are depicting in the setting that they come from. So you actually, it's similar to something like a D&D book where you've got full color images showing you these characters in action. And we don't really have that with. I mean, we've got Shurima. Shurima did that. They did it with the what's the frozen place?
Freljord.
Freljord. Freljord was a great example. So they actually released a bunch of artwork, and so you can see they've got these awesome frozen palaces, and all this kind of stuff. And oh my gosh, we're seeing Pixie's crotch now.
But yeah, no, I guess
so, it's
on that point though. Where does it stop? I mean, maybe they'll start doing pictures, and then the next stage will be, well, it'd be a lot more engaging if there were videos. Why aren't we getting cinematics for all of these lore releases? Or even just like machinima. Sorry, even just like machinima animations. Like, I mean, even some content creators do it, where you just get the character model. Like, you can recognize it in game as long as it's good enough. And they're just running around. Like, say if it was, I don't know, a Diana lore spotlight, Diana would be moving around and maybe make the environment all dark. So like, obviously you'd have to create a like editor where you can have other areas that aren't just Summoner's Rift, but like her running around in the like underneath the temple area where she got her moon armor, and then Leona's there, and then maybe there's like some faceless guards or whatever, but like the big interaction is there, and she's like, I'm gonna take this moon armor. Leona says, no, that's wrong, and she says, no, I'm gonna do it anyway. And then Leona says, so why do people think we're lovers?
Just lost you guys' sound.
Yeah, but what are you going to put in the visual aid? I mean, sure, you can have like Jin's voice actor talking about how mental he is, but what are you going to have in the video? Just him running around shooting people on Summoner's Rift.
The other, like, okay, apart from, I mean, the thing is, we have plenty of existing character sort of discussion. We know lots about the characters. We know lots about the Pixie. You're crunching your paper.
I'm armed and dangerous. It's still in sub. There's the thing with a fucking flying cockroach. You leave the room for like 30 seconds, it's gone.
I think his point was you're interrupting us.
I'm sorry, I know I am, but this is.
But yeah, I mean, I think what was I going to say? Now I've completely lost my train of thought. But I mean, like, there's already plenty of character, character. So in-depth character knowledge. We know lots about the characters. We don't know much about the world. And I mean, I think one thing that's added to our knowledge of the world of Runeterra is the fact that they put a background on Summoner's Rift. So previously it was just a bunch of trees. When they did the visual update, they actually gave you this mountain vista. And I think something like that alone gives you a sense. And I guess the same thing with ARAM. You see off the edge, you see it's a massive mountain crevice, and you are on this bridge. Yeah, Build Driller is the same. So, I mean, like, obviously they can't do that with every area because there's only going to be so many maps. But just even something simple like that. So that's why I think they really, imagery really matters. If they really want to give us a sense of what the world is like, we actually need to start being able to see imagery related to the world. Because just having, as you said, as Smite said, just a short book, I mean, it's like 3 or 4 pages of text. It's not really enough. And I guess I'd like to sort of see them do more artwork for the world, so I can get a better sense of what the world that they're operating is like. Because yeah, we know lots about the characters, and what they do in regards to characters is excellent. Like, you know, they don't need to do a long monologue to give me a better sense of someone like what's Toad guy's name? I'm having like a mental.
Tahm Kench.
Tahm Kench, yeah, I'm having total mental blanks on everything. You know, Tahm Kench, like he, you know, the stuff they did with him and him talk, you know, just. Well, I mean, I guess they did give him a little monologue talking about, you know, like the Traveler and all this stuff like that. I totally get, like, he's essentially from New Orleans and he's in a swamp.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, he's this weird demon thing. Like, that was cool. Like, everything I need to know about Tahm Kench is in that video. But I don't know anything about the world apart from what Tahm Kench has said about the world, you know, and what we just don't see much else. And I want to see more.
You know, we'll
have final comments and then we'll move on because we've got to talk about other stuff.
Just on that sort of note, I guess my final comment is I think one of the best champion releases they've done in terms of actually showing both was probably Braum, with the whole Feats of Braum thing, because I actually also got a really cool window into Freljord. And more specifically, I got a window into like day-to-day life in the Freljord. Like, this is, you know, a warm, hearty place of strong community, but it is also, you know, very harsh and a potentially unforgiving place to live. Though we also saw that through the eyes of, you know, someone telling of the feats of Braum, you know, this great optimist. So we also got to see the whole thing through that lens of, you know, it wasn't even a triumphant tale in so far as there was like a low moment in the second act and we had Braum like struggling with his alcoholism and then triumphing or something like that. It was like, we just had like Braum going around and being a good guy. And you can totally see how Braum himself wouldn't even realize how incredible that is for all these other people who have probably like lost parents or kids to like terrible frost-borne diseases or whatever the fuck they have in cold places. I live somewhere hot. I wouldn't know. So
somewhere hot. New Zealand. Yes, very hot.
Fucking hotter than Dunedin. But anyway, it's
maybe you should consult with Steven about it.
Well, he's currently dead from the heat, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the reason he's not here.
He's died from like Ross River virus or something, or dysentery. All right. Well, let's talk about OPL. Like, we'll save the F for Flash discussion another time because we want to talk about the level 30 accounts thing. We've only got 40 minutes. So, OPL this week, week 6. I think I might have said week 6 last week. I was wrong. Week 6 is this week. I get confused. Okay, results. Sin versus AV was a Sin win 2-1. Chiefs versus Hellion, unsurprisingly, Chiefs 2-0. Legacy versus Infernum, unsurprisingly, 2-0 to Legacy. Trident versus Direwolves, 2-1 to Direwolves. Wow. Let's talk about, I mean, I guess the kind of the interesting matches to talk about are really Trident, Direwolves, and Sin and AV. AV looks pretty
shit,
hit and miss. Well, their game 2 was pretty good. Like, they really came out in game 2 and really did well. Games 1 and 3. Yep.
The only thing with that is I have a new saying that I've started applying to professional League of Legends, and that is inconsistent is the new shit. So, but that's the nature of League of Legends now. Like, honestly, there is nothing worse than being inconsistent. You know, we've seen that in the past.
Actually, there is. It's called being inconsistently bad. Like,
yeah. But
Fortnite or Absolute.
Like, there really is like being consistently mediocre means you're going to finish a bottom, a middle of the road team. That's totally fine. Being consistently shit means you're going to finish at the bottom, and you know, whatever. You've got things you need to improve on. Inconsistency is one of the hardest things to improve on in the first place, and second of all, it can be one of the most crippling weaknesses. And, you know, it's unfair to say it's down to random chance because it's not like they sit down and roll a dice and it's like, oh, less than 3, we lose this game. It's more like, you know, an inconsistent team that is otherwise good will miss out constantly. And this can be players that are, are really great, potentially deserving of international competition and so on and so forth, but they will always miss out. And that's just the nature of the beast, Even if they get as far as something like finals, they have a bad finals and boom, it's done for. There's nothing worse than not being able to actually demonstrate your skill in the game because of your team's inconsistency. So inconsistent is the new shit. A bad team is just bad.
Or AV.
Well, yeah, but see, I mean, even not Trident, even Sin were kind of inconsistent. Like games 1 and 3, Rymaster went absolutely massive on Assassin. So he was Yasuo in game 1, Diana in game 3. And game 2, they got ruffle stomped. They only had one tower. They only took down one tower right at the end of the game. That was it. And AV had like 6 towers down before they managed to get one.
Look at the difference in those performances. Inconsistent is the new shit. It just happened to be we had 2 inconsistent teams. Like, that's the thing, right? When you have 2 inconsistent and potentially bad teams coming up against one another, the winner isn't really going to tell you who the better team is, sadly. And this is a hard series to look at for that reason. I honestly think on their best days, Avant is the better team unequivocally. That doesn't mean to that doesn't mean to say Sin are just bad. I just think Avant are better, but neither of them are ever going to be able to demonstrate that unless they work out consistency. And teams that are a little bit more consistent, teams that have improved their consistency like Trident and Hellions, they're going to finish middle of the pack because even if they're not as good as Chiefs and Legacy, they are at least consistently average.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Wow.
Well, I mean, I think Sin in game 1 actually beat AV. I think AV badly played it. So Sin managed to. So the AV had like a
wasn't that the game they had no
4K lead, and they basically.
Yeah, that does have to be. I mean, yeah,
but even so,
totally
like the reason they lost is because they allowed themselves to get stalled in mid lane. So essentially, they kept pushing mid lane, and it allowed Sin to push other lanes, get towers, farm up. Essentially, they took a 4K lead and managed to narrow the gap to like 400 gold or something. So and that's because they made bad choices. I don't think. I mean, yes, okay, you could have stopped Rymaster getting Yasuo. So they could have been some things you could have done, but really, like, I think they screwed up, and they Sin stalled AV's momentum, and then Sin got back into the game.
But the thing is, like, I guess the point I would want to make there is we've seen AV not make those mistakes in those positions. So we can say that Sin were the better team, or we can say that Avant made the more crippling mistake. Like, and that's the thing with consistency. Like, even if the players actually played well, the shot calling was the thing that was inconsistent in that game then, or the strategy, Like, inconsistency can refer to a whole load of things. And, like, arguably a team that is potentially inconsistent with both its player's skill and its shot calling and strategy is even worse off than one that's just inconsistent at one or the other. But I would also say that Sin are a bit inconsistent at both as well.
Sure. Yeah, I would I just don't want to make it sound like Sin didn't deserve their winning game 1. I think they really did.
No,
like, I think AV screwed up. Sin punished.
Yeah, and Sin capitalized on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. Well. Gotta say, game 3, Rymaster getting a double kill in bot lane after being caught out. You need to check that out. If you did not see that play, he got a little bit of help from Chippy, Chippies, who used his Gangplank's ult to help out like part way through the fight. But yeah, basically, Rymaster gets caught out. Malphite ultimates onto him. Support Malphite ultimates onto him. He gets knocked up. He loses about half his health, and then he gets a double kill by just like annihilating the bot lane because they were just like clumped together. It was scary. Rymaster on Diana is not a good thing. Don't let him get it. All right, let's talk about Trident versus Direwolves, which I did not see.
Oh boy, what a series!
I've got a lot to say about this game. In game 1, there's no two ways about it. Trident were just better. You know, they showed that in terms of skill, they could actually kind of go toe-to-toe with Direwolves. Like, it's not even that Direwolves played a bad game. Trident actually won because they employed a really clever counter strategy that required them to skirmish and then win. And they won those skirmishes, right? If the mechanical skill hadn't been there, then for all the cleverness of the strategy, they just wouldn't have won the game because Direwolves would have mechanically outplayed them. That didn't happen. Trident definitely matched Direwolves in that regard. And the first game, they won very convincingly. The second game, not so much. The second game, I wouldn't say Trident tilted or anything like that. They did not perform as well on the strategic level.
They tried to do the same thing in game 2.
Yeah.
And got caught out on it. And
yeah.
I mean,
which is silly because it was a counter strategy, really. Yeah. Game 1 that won it. Like, it's silly to try and employ that again. But
well, I mean, not necessarily, because Direwolves probably would have done their same strategy again, but they were ready for what Trident brought out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you haven't watched the game, it's in basically the first 5 or 6 minutes of game 1. You can really see what happens. It's basically just them reacting to the 4-man push in top lane, Trident basically matched that, and then got an advantage from there. But they tried to do that in game 2, didn't quite work out, and then sort of lost momentum from there. But you were going to talk about game 3. What do you think?
Yeah, well, actually, just because I think it's worth mentioning, you know, the counter strategy as well. Like, it's not just this one-off cheese thing that they did, and then, you know, it's so strong if it goes off because it's super cheesy that it won them the game. Like, after that, they continued to play a very good game of League of Legends. Like, they got a lead, they kept the lead, they extended the lead, they closed it out properly. But game 3, you know, this is one of those places where the 2-1 score really doesn't tell the full story, because this game actually could have gone Trident's way at several points. I do think this was a case of Direwolves were playing at their best in this game and Trident were not. Maybe they were just still struggling a bit with the previous loss, but
they had some kind of disadvantages, I'm going to say, in game 3, and yet still pulled out the win. If you didn't watch, probably one of the more entertaining matches of OPL I've actually seen. So if you're going to watch any game from OPL this season, go and watch game 3 of the series. But essentially what happened was there was a bit of a roster thing happening, and the jungler for Direwolves... Yes, the jungler for Direwolves... I can't remember his name,
Rippy.
but he... Well, Rippy subbed in, but Sybil, Sybil had to leave for some reason. No, Sybil got moved to support.
Yeah,
it was Kuden, the support, had to leave. So Sybil went down to support, and Rippy jumped in. Of course, if you've been playing on the Oceanic server for a while, you'll know Rippy, the Udyr king on our server. He jumped in, used to play for Direwolves, still is a sub, so that's why he got brought in. And then he got given Udyr, and it kind of threw Trident a bit off, because Rippy was like, he was sitting in the support position in the team roster, so they thought, what is he supporting? And also Sybil had played Udyr in the game previous, so they thought maybe they could deal with it if he's jungling again. But then Rippy went jungle anyway, and Sybil went support Bard, which again, one of the reasons why this is the most entertaining match, because he basically played River Bard. He wasn't in his lane. There was a lane swap situation.
Like a mofo.
He messed around in the Trident jungle, then he messed around in the top lane, and then, I don't know, maybe about 10 minutes later he got back down to like where his AD carry was. But it was just so incredible for someone who isn't normally a support. Sybil played a great game on Bard.
He played support the way a jungler would, in a way. It was actually quite cool to watch. And you know, again, it was actually Direwolves pulled out not a, you know, crazy cheesy strategy or anything, but they pulled out something quite interesting and they pulled it off. And like I said, I actually think they just, in the end, did play a bit better than Trident did. I think this is the sort of thing where, you know, if we played this series 100 times, 50 out of them Direwolves would win and 50 Trident would win. That's kind of what the series felt to me. And maybe there's definitely room for Trident to improve. I think all your sound is just cut out. I can see you. No.
I'm waiting to see.
Like,
oh,
okay.
I'm waiting for you to finish. Yeah.
Sorry, it looked like
I didn't want to jump in.
Sometimes my headset cuts off and does the thing. But yeah, the only thing that maybe needs to come into question is Smite. Of course, you mentioned Rippy was sitting in the support slot and then went jungle.
Yeah, I'm not sure how legitimate that is, but I mean, the casters.
I feel like it's worthy of a small fine, at least, because pick ban is an important phase of the game, and that is a form of holding strategic information.
They released the what?
Yeah.
The global thing. But that said, on the day, the casters were like, well, just because he's in the support position doesn't mean he has to play a support
Yeah.
in the support role. And I was sitting there kind of like, well, like Pixie
But
said,
it
it is
does.
kind of an important thing. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it was communicated to Trident, which I absolutely think it probably should have been, because when you're in a team like that, like in the competitive scene, because obviously we cast, we're in the lobby with these guys too sometimes. You're always told, be in the order of like top jungle, mid, AD carry, support. And so if I'm Trident, particularly if I'm the coach for Trident and I'm drafting for them, then I'm sitting there thinking like, well, Rippy's in the support slot. Maybe Sybil just can't support, so maybe Rippy is gonna try it. And so let's not worry about the Rippy Udyr. We can deal with Sybil Udyr, but then suddenly he picks Udyr anyway, and then they're thinking, what is it, support Udyr? Oh, he's just jungling anyway.
And also, Rippy sitting in the 5th slot as well.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. But the other thing with that is we don't need to ban away Udyr because Rippy's not going to be in the jungle. And this is someone, like you said, he's the Udyr god. Like, if you know he's jungling, you ban the Udyr.
So I mean, another thing to really quickly touch on is that, like, I don't think that would this have made the difference in the victory? Like, probably not. I think the series probably still would have gone the same. But I still think it's something that should, like, it's a situation that should not happen in the future in games where, like, maybe the outcome would be different.
Okay, I disagree. I think it actually is probably irrelevant because they pick and ban as a team. So they're in communication. It doesn't really matter which spot which people are in because they're working together to do the picks and bans. And I mean, Rippy's got like 6,000 wins or something, like ranked wins. I think they said on the stream with Udyr. The guy is, like even in support, they should have realized that Rippy might go Udyr, especially since, from what I can tell, Udyr seems to be a bit of flavor of the month in terms of competitive. So,
but support, support Udyr. That's the only thing, Kara. Like, I understand what you mean, but the thing is, at the top level, that really stops applying, right? Let's say,
Let's say the game before. I mean, it wasn't the case, but in game 2, Sybil played Udyr and they won. But if it was the reverse and Trident absolutely dicked Sybil's Udyr, and they see Sybil jungling again, and they think, well, his Udyr was useless.
Yeah, we don't need to ban that.
And support Udyr is also useless, regardless if Rippy's doing it. We can handle that easily. Like, if you're not expecting Udyr God in the jungle role, then if you think that's 100% a thing, then you shouldn't need to waste a ban on it.
Yeah, I disagree wholeheartedly. Like, I honestly, even if the players think it's arbitrary, I mean, it's important to be in the right positions from a fucking stream overlay standpoint. Like,
but
they did.
That's true.
Yeah, whether intentionally or otherwise, they did go outside the rules.
He's subbing for Kuden, so he's actually taking Kuden's spot. And okay, the meta isn't actually part of the rules of League of Legends. Like, there's nothing. They could have had double jungle for all. They could have if they wanted to. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
You do enlist in the team in a position.
Yeah, but yes, but there's nothing actually that needs to tie that person to that position.
No, I agree. That's how it should be. However, if that's the case, then it should.
Any misinformation.
I think it should be communicated.
I don't think Tridents were in any way deceived by what happened.
It should be communicated.
I don't think it's deceptive.
I don't know if they were intentionally deceived.
No, they definitely didn't do it on purpose.
Wrong to say that this was an intentional.
I don't think there's any deception.
But
it wouldn't have been unreasonable for them. I mean, like, Trident should have been prepared. I mean, obviously they can't prepare for Kuden having computer issues and then Rippy subbing in. But once they see Rippy subbing in, somebody should have thought, well, Rippy could jungle. Like, he was a top tier jungler for a while there. Presumably he mains it in, actual ranked and stuff. Like, he's known as a jungler. They should have considered the possibility that maybe Rippy will jungle and Sybil will support, because you got to wonder who's the better support out of those two.
Yeah, but then you've got to.
The thing is, I would bet my last dollar that Trident would have been sitting there going, "Oh, Rippy's not jungling. I would have thought he would be jungling. Well, how come he's in the support role?" They would have actually assumed he was going to be jungling.
Well, then that's
subbed in.
Or in the case of us, people who've
and second guess that. But at the end of the day, no matter how we slice it, no matter whether, like, whatever our opinions on whether these positions in Champions Select are important or not. At the end of the day, it is still in the rules. It is still a requirement of playing in that tournament, and that was breached, intentionally or otherwise. It was breached. We can talk about whether or not that had an effect on the game, but at the end of the day, I think at the very least it deserves a slap on the wrist. It's really not the sort of thing that happens. And I know you disagree, but I personally believe that there is an element of competitive integrity tied to this, and I think it's not the sort of thing that should go unpunished, really. The thing
I don't think it should be.
and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
What is it that's in the rules? Like, I don't know what you mean when you say that. Like, it says that person should be in that role if they're in that slot in Champ Select. You mean?
Yes. You do have to be in a certain slot in Champions Select. And
I think in OCS it does have that too.
Yeah, so. I think actually the key reason for that is actually just an overlay thing. You look at the little gold bar at the bottom and your AD is next to your AD, blah, 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 blah.
Sure, yeah.
Even if that's the only reason for it, it's still actually something that's meant to be there. And I would argue that in this case, it did also hide strategic information. Again, I don't believe that was intentional, and I don't think that's worthy of like a fine or anything. I think it's worthy of a mention, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And like I said, it's definitely something that should never happen again. If this happened in the LCS, for example, like suddenly, Cloud9 come in and they've brought Meteos back on for a game, and he's actually in support, and High's back to jungle, and like all this shit's swapped around, people would be slapping their dicks against their keyboards because it's Meteos, right? But that's how they'd be typing their complaints, right? And they would be fucking livid about it.
Well, I guess oh, you go, Billy.
Billy. Yeah.
They're the heels of the...
I meant, I don't know, but I think the situation is like, obviously I don't think Direwolves did this on purpose. I think what actually happened was, it's about to be game 3 and Kuden's like, oh my god, guys, I don't know, my dog died. I've really got to go.
No, he said it was computer issues on Twitter.
Oh, well, okay, fine. We know what happened. I don't get to make up a story. Thanks, Garrett. But what probably happened is, he said he had computer issues, and Dio was sitting there thinking like, crap. Hey, Rippy, quick, get in here. And then he gets in the team. They're all in the lobby. Game 3's already been delayed a ton, and they're thinking, do we have to have him in support? Do we have to? Like, is this part of Riot rules? And then they have to start the game, and he's sitting there, and they're still thinking, like, do we have to have him as a support champion, even though he's there? And Trident, on the other side, are still thinking all of these same things. Like, crap, Rippy's here. He's probably going to jungle. Oh, he's in the 5th slot. Is he going to support? Is he going to jungle? We actually don't know. Should this be confirmed? This should really be communicated between the teams. I mean, yes, maybe in a perfect world, you should be able to hide these things and maybe play a bit of a psychological thing. But then at the same time, it feels like that makes the game a bit of a dice roll. It's like, imagine if Trident is sitting there and they're thinking, like, would you rather watch Trident flip a coin and that decide whether they ban Udyr against Rippy, and then they ban Udyr against Rippy and he's not even jungling, it doesn't matter. So they basically essentially wasted a ban because of what is pretty much a coin flip.
And the reason I think
that's always the case, though. I mean, that's like if Direwolves decided to employ a particular strat that includes certain champions but not others, Sin's not like Trident's not going to know that ahead of time. So all bans are presumptive that the other people will want to use that champion.
Well,
yes,
so
I mean, there's always an asymmetry in information.
Yeah, but they're also
target bans are a thing.
Yeah, they're also generally speaking based on the champion, not necessarily on the sometimes it is a target ban, and that's the only time it's based on a player, and that's why I think withholding player information is a bit of an issue. Like I said, I don't think it's intentional. Like I don't want this to be taken out. But there is something else. There is something else I want to say.
The downside of what you like, I'll just make one more point and then we'll move on.
Yep.
This is my show, damn it. The problem with tying players to particular spots and forcing them to play within the meta is it means that Riot are essentially forcing a meta, which they never really have. They've always worked with what people have gone for, and there is nothing to say that in the future somebody won't come up with a better way of playing League of Legends than 1-1-1-2. So firstly that. Secondly, we're yet to actually truly see players who are gifted in more than one lane. Like we sort of live in the world where every player is a specialist. But you know, in other games, like cricket's probably the best example. You have all rounders, people who are skilled in more than one area. So, you know, there's feasibly a team which have a mid laner and a top laner who are so good at either role they could switch them on. You know, switch between them. I mean, we've kind of seen in Korea, we've seen mid laners who swap in and out. So Faker and who is it? It was Hoon or somebody. Easy Hoon, yeah. So, you know, we've seen players switch out, but you know, maybe there's a world where to deceive the other teams, they actually decide to switch lanes at the start of the game, you know, and you know, to try and throw the teams off. And I think that's a totally legit strat in any sport. Like,
oh yeah, like maybe
abusing the fact that the other team don't know what you're going to do is a critical area of strategy in sport.
Yeah,
so
because we all we all get that. Like and yeah, like maybe there's a world in which that happens. And if that is like, you know, if that world exists, I'm not going to sit there and go like, no, this is wrong, damn it, like, because that'll just be how the game is. Like, cool, totally fine.
But if you have rules that say you must be tied to a spot,
that's not what Direwolves were trying to do here. Like that's the thing. That's not what Direwolves were trying to do. They weren't actually trying to do something creative or anything. And then, you know, if they were, I still, but no, I don't think it was intentional. Like I really don't think it was intentional. Like
it's the situation I described before. Like
yeah, I'd be very.
It was a bit of a rush.
It's intentional, but
a bit of a rush thing.
Then if it was intentional, I do think there's an issue with that. Purely because there is still a rule against it, and the rule has nothing to do with meta. Like I agree with you, Carrot. Like for all we know, someone comes up with a better way of playing League of Legends. Like there was a game a couple of years ago now in China, right, where the team, and this was in like a semi or a final, like it was a serious match. The team picked like Heimerdinger at a time when he was trash, and like a whole bunch of other random champions.
Oh, GSG versus CJ Enters.
Yes. And they chucked 4 of them down the middle with Olaf in a side lane, and they just like pushed down the middle and steamrolled their game, and they won. And
pretty much the greatest game I've ever seen.
Meta strategy, right? And it didn't just win because it was cheesy. Like it won because they had banned out certain things, and the enemy team had picked a comp without enough wave clear and stuff like that. Like it was a legitimately good off-meta counter. And maybe we live in a world where that happens. But those players still went into Champion Select in the correct order.
Okay. Fair enough. That's the final word on that. Let's talk about the other remaining games, and we'll try and squeeze and talk about the level 30 thing. So, really, I mean, is there really anything to say about Trident and the Legacy and Chiefs games? I mean, Chiefs just completely...
Hellions nearly showed up. They nearly showed up, but they didn't.
Nearly.
And they still lost. Like, Chiefs are better.
It's basically just go and look at the OPL Rewind comic on the website, and it just explains it. I mean, I think one of my favorite ones is the actually no, this week's one's not out yet. Actually,
I love Legacy's tree every single time getting bigger and bigger.
But the one where they were against Direwolves was good. It's interestingly the only one where he didn't. Yeah, it's interestingly the only Legacy one where he didn't drop a branch on the enemy. Like it's like, oh, Direwolves are big enough of a threat to pick them up and I don't know, yell at them or whatever he did. But like honestly, if you guys haven't seen it, just go and have a look at the OPL Rewinds.
It's the guy who does the caster comics, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
I mean, like some of them have been, whatever. But like that week 5 one is actually by far like it's legitimately hilarious. Like
every single panel is good.
Yeah, it's like excellent. Especially the Trident tidal wave. Like that was
yeah. That's why I love the Trident Chiefs one. It's just the tidal wave in a paddling pool.
So this week we've got Super Week. Monday, AV versus Trident, Direwolves versus Chiefs, which will decide second place. We've got Direwolves versus Sin, Legacy versus Trident on Tuesday, Chiefs versus Sin, and Hellions versus Infernum. Really, I mean, that Chiefs versus Direwolves is probably the key game for the week, and really, it's an opportunity for Chiefs to, if they're going to consolidate their hold on second place, like this is going to be the chance they're going to get to have it. Because what I actually went to say about the game this week is they not only did they ruffle stomp Hellions, they actually looked really good. They looked like Chiefs of last year. So
they're back on the up and up totally.
Yeah. But everything else, I mean, really, I guess it's just kind of sorting out who's going to be third place. So
and middle of the pack as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like it's going to be Hellions. I mean, really, going by the score. So the current standings are Legacy 6 wins, 0 losses, Divals are 4-1, Chiefs are 4-1, Hellions are 3-3, Sin is 2-3, Trident is 1-4, and Venom and AV are both 1 and 5. So I guess Sin and Hellions, are they actually playing together? No, I don't think so. Yeah,
So
Hellions
not,
only got
not
one
looking
team.
good for them in
Yeah.
those chances, really.
Yeah, this is our catch-up week.
Yeah, important to note though as well. It's still a few teams are a game behind. For example, like Trident and Infernum. Trident and Sin are only sitting on 5 games total, whereas other teams are sitting on 6. So,
Yep.
yeah, obviously, got to wait for the whole season really to play out. Whenever they do the catch up, I thought it was going to be in Super Week, but I'm not sure it is.
No.
I think there is a second catch-up. No, whatever. We'll find out. I'm sure. Can we just talk though?
No, we can't.
Seeing as I'm now scrolled 2/3 of the way down the page, can we actually just have a one-word mention of how badly laid out this site is? This has got to be the worst way of organizing a week-by-week
LOL
schedule.
esports one.
Yeah,
LOL,
it's a terrible
it's
way of showing a week-by-week schedule. Just a one-line mention. If any writers listen to this podcast, please pass this on to whoever designs your webpage. I'm tired of scrolling. I'm really tired of it.
Yeah,
make it easy for me, please. I want to follow
He's
your.
He's getting all red in the face about it.
To be perfectly honest, the LOL esports website, the main one itself, is not exactly like a breeze.
Much
so
better.
It is
so much
better. It's still pretty bad for
like
navigating around. All right, let's talk about level 30 accounts. This is something that Smite brought up a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember what we got onto it, but basically, the key question: should you be able to buy a level 30 account for smurfing? Matt, Smite, Ross, go.
All right, so one of the main people for this was Wombat, who is unfortunately not here. So I'm hoping one of you guys has a strong opinion similar to his to kind of debate me. But this should not be a thing. In a perfect world, everyone should have one account. And in an even more perfect world, that account could be shared around all the regions as well, but that's not a thing. So I guess one account per region, right? And the reason for that is, why do you need another account? Why do you need another level 30 account? It's either to jump into a rank that's lower than yours, lower than what your main account's at. And, MMR is a thing for a reason. And there's a thing about smurfing a bit later on. I don't know if we're going to talk about that. It kind of comes into it. But basically, playing ranked at something that is different to your main account's MMR is just not a good thing. Maybe you enjoy it, but it's at the expense of someone else, whether it's because you're bringing your team's MMR down because you're actually worse, or the opposite. You're just being a better player in a match where just lower skill players are. That is a bad thing. Another reason for just wanting a level 30 account, or just having an alternate account, right, is, for example, I think one of the better reasons for it is for the people who are in Challenger and Masters who have like 20-year queue times and just want to play games. I kind of get that. I do kind of understand that having such a long queue time kind of sucks. But at the same time, play normal matches. Maybe you want competitive matches or something, but you're not really getting a full competitive match. And if you're queuing up ranked on an alternate account just to get quicker queue times, and at the same time it's the same thing. You're just bringing it down for other players by just playing in a league that's just below you. You're just playing in matches against better players. And there's always the arguments, and this is again the smurfing thing, where it's like, oh well, smurfing doesn't matter, and especially if they're on your team, you should be thankful. It's like, no, yes, in the long run, it's not going to affect people's climbing. It might a little bit, but it should even out. Yes, that's a thing, but it still sucks in those games. Like, if I get a Smurf who comes into my gold/platinum games and says, "Hi, I'm a diamond Smurf," and just let me get this role or whatever. Like, sure, it's good that they carry me, but at the same time, there's 5 people on the other team that aren't having a great time. And then, of course, there's my situation when I'm against the Smurf. That also sucks. And so I'm just never really happy when there is a Smurf in my game. Most of the time, I don't believe them, but I'm never really happy. And so, I guess, yeah,
So I'll take up the opportunity. I'll take up the opportunity to challenge that, because I guess
I've got a challenge too as well. This
Oh,
is
do
interesting.
you?
Like,
Okay,
I think
alright.
I agree with Smite, but hell yeah, let's do some devil's
Fir-
advocation.
That's the good thing about
First thing, level 30. You should be able to buy a level 30 account on any other region if you've got a level 30 account. Because essentially, I would like to play with like the Trinity Force guys, but I'm not going to spend months leveling up to a level 30 account on 300 ping. Like that's just insane. I'm not going to do it. So therefore, I can't play with my mates on a different server. So
okay,
firstly,
to counter that, why not just? I mean, I'm not really sure why there's a cost to it right now, but maybe there should just be free transfers between all the regions. Maybe put a bit of a cooldown on it just to stop people spamming it.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure why that is. I mean, maybe it's probably like a technical issue. I mean, I think it's not like you wouldn't need a transfer if I could just say, well, I'm going to buy a level 30 account on another server. And then I mean, you still have to pay for all the content and all the runes or whatever. But essentially, like, it'd just be nice to be able to play with people outside of my region. I mean, obviously, with someone like Southeast Asia, it's going to be an issue because technically it's not run by Riot, it's run by Garena. So, I mean, there's still issues. But generally, NA, EU, Oceania, all the Riot controlled servers, I should be able to buy an account once I have a level 30 in Oceania on another server. So that's first thing.
In that case, it should just be.
Thing,
Sorry, I'm just gonna really quickly say. In that case, it should just be a flat copy of your account, essentially a transfer, but it leaves your account there. Sure, and like of course, because it's a different ladder, you have to do provisionals again. But yeah, we'll go with that.
And I actually quite like that model. I don't like the.
Hang on, let me finish.
Sorry. I thought you were done.
I'm trying to get to it. I keep getting interrupted. Okay, here's the thing about why you want to be able to buy a level 30 account on Oceania if you're an Oceanic player. There is a serious issue with botting. The reason botting exists is because people want to be able to buy an account. So the only way that Riot can truly fix that, because it's essentially a market, it's an economic thing. There is a market for accounts. Enough real people are not selling their accounts. And like there's all sorts of economic sort of like people who want to buy a fresh account. It's easier to, you have the only way you can realistically create a market, fill the market demand is through bots. Bots are a scourge. They got rid of Dominion. One of the primary reasons is because of botting. So the only way you can really sort of stop that from happening and having bots ruin games and having bots move into another matchmaking queue to keep doing the same is to sell accounts. So one reason why you might want to let people sell accounts, I mean, I'm not going to, I don't necessarily highly agree with it, but that is a reasonable reason to sell level 30 accounts. It's just essentially undercut the market for accounts that's created by bots.
Yeah, so
I don't see any other way you can deal with that bot issue aside from Riot selling accounts.
Yeah, but I just get better at dealing with bots. Honestly, like selling accounts is not the answer. That's essentially just giving into them, and like even if we were selling accounts, I think they should just be free. But like, it's more the attitude of people wanting
it's level 30 accounts. That's what they want.
Yeah, I know, but it's more the attitude of people that want these accounts. I mean, I just had a big rant about it before. Why do you need another level 30 account? You don't. It doesn't make it better. I feel for you challenger guys. I really do. Really long queue times, but honestly, just suck it up and play a normal. Maybe if we had normal draft, it might be a bit better for you guys, but the queue time for that would still probably be quite long. It's just the reality of it, and like making games matched unfairly isn't the answer for that. Just to make your queue times a little bit better.
Here's the only thing, and this is me playing devil's advocate because honestly, for the most part, I agree with you. But theoretically, right? Let's say you're challenger, and you just want to just hear me out. You play on your Smurf because you just want to get into a game, and you're not going to play normals because you want to you want to try hard, if you will. You want to play competitively. You want to play at your best, right? Theoretically, that account will also become challenger, and theoretically, that's no different to a challenger player on their main account leveling it up through plat and diamond and so forth, right? They're going to get matched with plat players who they outclass, right? Theoretically, it's exactly the same thing. So how then can we argue that it's a significant problem? I'll be honest, I have a Smurf account, and I made that Smurf account so that I could play with a friend of mine whom we were teaching at the time. And as he approached level 30, we started playing on our main accounts because we had deeper champion pools there. And I used that Smurf when I got really drunk and played Dominion. Because I actually didn't want to sit there really, really drunk off my tits with a whole bunch of, pros and shoutcasters on my friends list.
Just yeah.
But it also is like I know I'm not fucking rolling in it or anything, but like I know some significant people, and I don't really want to sit there on my main account drunk off my ass playing League of Legends, which I enjoy doing, and I'm allowed to play the game in that way if I so please. With all that on my friends list, I would rather just jump on a different account because I'm there to play drunk League with the specific people that I'm playing with.
There's an easy solution to that called just an invisible status, which plenty of other games have. You just mark yourself as invisible or log in as invisible, so no one's going to see you.
There are actually solutions to all of these things, like yeah.
Well, I think the low level thing is like an important one because I mean, if you're introducing somebody to League and you start playing normal games, because I mean, obviously bot versus IA doesn't matter because you're playing against bots, but they get to a point where you actually want to play real games because bots are kind of dumb and not that much fun to play against. And if I'm level 30 and I'm bringing I guess my MMR is probably somewhere in silver-ish. Like if I bring those people into a game where we're playing with somebody who has no idea how to properly play League, they're going to get absolutely smashed. It's going to be an incredibly frustrating experience for the person, the new player. It's gonna be incredibly frustrating experience for the other players in my team. And yeah, it's normal, so it doesn't really count. But still, even so, like one of the goals of the the whole development team on Riot is to minimize frustration, increase fun. So I think they really do need to come up with a way that I can play, not drag in people of my skill level into matches with new players. I don't know how you do that because I mean, it means you still have the problems which Smite's brought up, which is having high level players with low level players just distorts things and makes it less fun.
It actually ends up sucking for everyone. Yeah, you're dead right. Yeah. The funny thing is though, I actually do agree with Smite on that argument. And really I'm playing devil's advocate. But funnily enough, I agree with Carrot on the buying level 30s argument because like regardless of the purpose of those level 30 accounts and what you're going to use them for, right? I actually agree that sometimes you do just want a level 30 account. I agree with the sentiment of being able to purchase level 30 accounts on other regions. I agree with it also undercutting the entire market for bots. And at the end of the day, people do want those level 30 accounts. And I think that's maybe something we'll have to keep in mind with this discussion because actually I see those two things as quite separate issues because one issue is the fact that there are people wanting to buy level 30 accounts and whether or not that should be facilitated and why. The second one is why are people buying level 30 accounts? Because they are. And is it, are they right or wrong for doing that?
Okay, Billy with the final word and then we'll wrap up.
Mm.
But out of the three reasons that you said, I mean, maybe the fourth one was a really good one. Two of the reasons are just for scumbags who just want to play in elos that they don't belong in, and the other one is for challenger princesses who can't suck it up that they have a really long queue time. And I mean, okay, I'm being a bit mean there because the queue time is really long. It sucks, but I don't think the benefit that one person's getting by having quicker queue times and then being in a match which they don't belong in is not like the cost of that is not it's worse than the benefit that one person's getting.
To add to that, I mean those multiple Smurf challenges, mean there's less room for other players. So, the League Down Under guy said that BMA's got 4 Challenger accounts. Well, that means there's 3 people who would have been in Challenger who aren't because BMA has got 3 accounts. Well, that's just mean. But
don't have to draft very well in solo queue.
Yeah, and there have been issues with that in the past.
Final thought by Pixie right now. Go.
Yeah, because just on the notion of BMA, because there was a couple of seasons ago, Wild Turtle was exactly the same. He had the top 3 spots in Challenger. And you can look at that and go, oh my god, Wild Turtle is so impressive. And yes, it says exactly that. But what it actually says is 4th and 5th were actually the next 2 best players in Challenger. And they kind of don't get that recognition. You're actually right from that standpoint. At the end of the day, look, Riot disallows smurfing. And you can argue, I think the truth of it is there is actually no good reason to smurf. I think the closest thing we have to a good reason is, your Challenger and you got 40-minute queue times and you just want to play some competitive League of Legends. But then we run into the issue of, people clogging up Challenger with those multiple accounts. Because like I said, theoretically speaking, if you're a Challenger player and you're trying hard in every game on your smurf, eventually that's going to reach Challenger 2 and perhaps literally Challenger 2. And don't fucking smurf. Like, if you are that Challenger player, I'll be honest, you are also the tiniest percentage of players. So the advantage it has for you is not even worth this argument, unfortunately, just from a numerical standpoint. Suck it up, play some normals. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it's going to be, You can still play League of Legends. And here's the fucking secret. You can try hard in normals too. I do it all the time.
Hey, get out of here. No. None of that trying my normals.
Maybe it's a solution. Like, maybe they can come up with a queue that's like normals, but you can drop in and drop out. So Challenger players can drop in while they're waiting for their rank queue to find them a game. Then, it just pulls them out. A bit like Rocket League. When you're playing Rocket League, you can play AI matches.
Yeah. I think all
right. No, that's it.
Times are healthy for the gaming industry because those Challenger players are enthusiastic players who play for long stretches of time and they're able to play other games in that time. So actually, it helps drive up the market for other games.
That's not something Riot wants.
They're still playing League of Legends while they're doing that, though.
Shut up! We gotta finish. Otherwise, we'll keep going. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, we really have to wrap things up because we've reached an hour now. I just want to say special thank you. I don't remember to say this every week, but special thank you to the amazing Victor's butthole, according to the document, who puts it together, the document for us together. So thanks to Victor for all the work he does in the background, getting stuff organized for us. So just a big special thank you to him. All right, we're going to be back again next week with more League of Legends discussion. We've got a big week of OPL, week 7, actual week 7, not me thinking it's week 7. And we've got some big games. So tune in next week.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.